Um, it's telling it's telling me that my LinkedIn stream was deleted for some reason. So
Oh,
we'll go with yours. Okay.
yeah, mine's live. We're good. Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Unapologetic Wealth and Buoyant Living. My name is Susie deVille. I'm the founder and CEO of the Innovation and Creativity Institute, and I help entrepreneurs, creators, and visionary leaders connect with their innate creativity, home in on who they truly are, and unlock their entrepreneurial potential. I am also the author of Buoyant, the Entrepreneur's Guide to Becoming Wildly Successful, Creative, and Free. And I am thrilled out of my mind to be joined by the extraordinary and fabulous Marcia Dawood, who is not only a dear friend, but she is a money/investing genius. So welcome, Marcia.
I don't know that I've been called that before, but I'll take it.
I am so excited. I want to start by introducing Marcia in a formal way because her bio is beyond impressive. So let me read to you from this impressive document here. Marcia Dawood is an author, TEDx speaker, podcast host, and early stage investor who has dedicated her career to helping more people, especially women, see themselves as investors and active participants in their financial lives. Her work sits at the intersection of wealth, purpose, and opportunity. Through her investing, writing, and conversations with women across the country, Marcia began to notice a pattern. Many women wanted to engage more deeply with their money, but had never been encouraged to think about wealth as something they could actively shape. They were successful, capable, and thoughtful, yet unsure where to begin aligning their financial lives with their values. That realization led her to write her new book, and please hold it up for us, Unapologetic Wealth, Rewrite Your Money Story from Any Beginning, which is releasing next month. Woohoo!
Yes, thank you.
And what is the official pub date?
March 31st.
Perfect. So again, welcome everyone. I want to start by sharing with you what it is that is driving Marcia and me being here with you today. I want to go over to my document camera and just take you through a little introduction here. And let's start with understanding what it is about this very unique combination of unapologetic wealth and buoyant living. And it starts with the brain. Our brain is wired for scarcity and survival. And our cultural messaging also reinforces what the brain tells us. The cultural message is always, you must overachieve to have value, or something along the lines of, you must be perfect. You must get your value from how hard you work or how productive you are. And we say, no, we have a very different approach. And it starts with having a different kind of a compass. So we believe that when joy becomes the compass, we think and create differently. We earn differently. We invest, we lead, and we live differently. So we're going to be taking you on a really fun journey today. And let me get back here. We're going to be going on a very fun journey today, and Marcia is going to kick things off with a really interesting story of a woman who is a beautiful model of female power and wealth.
Yes. So we are going to start with story time. I love story time. Okay, so in 480 BCE, when the Persian Empire was at the height of its power, a queen stood among kings and generals and gave advice no one else dared to give. Her name was Artemisia, and she ruled a region called Caria along the coast of what is now Turkey. Caria was part of the vast Persian Empire led by King Xerxes. When Xerxes prepared to invade Greece, he assembled one of the largest military forces the world had ever seen. Dozens of rulers under his control were required to contribute ships and soldiers. Artemisia sent 5 warships. Now, that may not sound like a lot, especially compared to the hundreds in Xerxes' fleet, but what made her remarkable was not the size of her fleet, it was her strategic mind. Before a major naval confrontation known as the Battle of Salamis, Xerxes gathered his commanders to decide whether to attack the Greek navy. Most of the men urged him forward. They wanted a decisive sea battle. They believed their numbers guaranteed victory. Artemisia disagreed. She warned Xerxes that the Greeks were more skilled at naval warfare. She cautioned that fighting in the narrow straits near Salamis would eliminate Persia's advantage in size. Large fleets need space to maneuver. In tight waters, ships collide. Command breaks down, confusion spreads. She advised patience instead. Cut off Greek supplies, let them weaken, win without risking the fleet. Xerxes chose to ignore her counsel. The battle began. Persian ships flooded into the narrow straits. The Greek fleet, smaller but more agile, used the confined space to their advantage. Chaos ensued. In the middle of the fighting, Artemisia found herself pursued by a Greek warship. She couldn't outrun it, and ahead of her were allied Persian ships blocking her escape. In a split-second decision, she did something astonishing. She rammed and sank one of her own allied ships. The Greek captain chasing her saw what happened to her by attacking a friendly vessel and assumed that she must be Greek or had defected, and he broke off pursuit. From the hillside vantage point, Xerxes watched the battle unfold. When he saw Artemisia's maneuver, he believed she had destroyed an enemy ship. Impressed, he reportedly declared that while his men acted like women, his woman acted like a man. Okay. In a statement, it's a statement shaped by the language of its time. What matters more is this: in that moment, skill overrode expectation. The Persian fleet ultimately lost the Battle of Salamis, but it became one of the most decisive naval battles in history, and Artemis's reputation endured. The Greek historian from her region recorded her story, and he described her as bold in counsel and decisive in action. In a room filled with powerful men, she was the only one who advised restraint. She assessed risks clearly, she spoke honestly, and when circumstances turned dangerous, she acted without hesitation. That is why her story still resonates. She did not command the largest fleet, and she did not win the battle. She did have the clarity to see what others did not, and the courage to say it out loud. So I tell this story to show that women have always been capable stewards of power and wealth. And the issue is not capacity. Artemisia acted from clarity and authority. So when we think about the way that women have been thinking about money, how they have acted in situations, we have the power, we have the ability to be able to do these things. But over time, we have these limiting beliefs that have crept up in our mind. So in the book Unapologetic Wealth, I have a timeline, and it's part of the history of women's rights. So I just want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, in 1777, women's voting rights were actually taken away. And it wasn't until 1920 that we actually got voting rights back. So there's been bumps along the road. And it wasn't until 1974 that women could have a credit card in their own name. So let's think about Artemisia's story until then was almost 2,500 years. So let's think about that for a minute. The way that women feel about money, it's complicated, it's emotionally charged. There are reasons for this. There is a whole history of limiting beliefs that women have inherited over time. So I'm going to turn it back over to Susie for a journaling exercise.
I love that story so much. I would love to invite, I can see Susan G is here and Jennifer Nash and anyone else who is on the stream. I would love for you all to take 1 minute and free write around the following journaling prompt. Where have you been strategic, capable, or powerful, but hesitant to fully own it? So we'll take 1 minute. And when you finish, if you are wanting to share, please put your journaling results into the comments.
Oh, Jane's here too. Hi, Jane.
Jane! Woohoo! And don't overthink it. And it doesn't have to be prose or punctuated properly. I know Jane's going to come in with something delish. She's asking to repeat the question. Where have you been strategic, capable, or powerful, but hesitant to fully own it? And if you are feeling brave and desiring of having a comment out there in the world, please put it in the chat or the comments. Jennifer, while I have been a real estate investor for decades, I still feel like I need permission to do it for my own fun. Oh my gosh, yes. As a fellow real estate investor, I can relate to this. Anyone else want to share? I'll keep an eye on those comments. I'm going to turn it back over to Marcia. She's going to talk with us about why women hold back with money.
Yes. And actually, I'm going to read a very short passage from the book Unapologetic Wealth. I think this story really illustrates what it means to have inherited these limiting beliefs from the past. So there was a study conducted by researchers at Emory University, and in the experiment, mice were exposed to the scent of cherry blossoms while receiving mild electric shocks to their feet. Over time, the mice began to associate the scent of cherry blossoms with pain and fear. Eventually, the shock was no longer necessary. The scent alone triggered anxiety. You've kind of heard this story before, right? But here's where it gets interesting. The offspring of those mice who were never shocked themselves also showed signs of fear when exposed to the cherry blossom scent. They had inherited a fear response to something they had never personally experienced. And it didn't stop there. The grandchildren of the original mice, 2 generations removed from initial trauma, still responded with fear. No shocks, no training, just inherited anxiety triggered by the scent. Wow. So imagine how this translates to humans. Not only have many women watched their mothers and grandmothers struggle with money, juggling bills, putting others first, or staying silent about financial decisions, but the idea of holding back has been deeply encoded. Through both lived experiences and, yes, epigenetics, like I just explained, we inherit more than just memories. We inherit reactions, beliefs, and patterns. The message is that money is not something to be bold with, but something to manage quietly and cautiously, often allows guilt to creep in. We don't have to be explicitly taught for that message to reside within you. Sometimes it's simply and silently passed down through behavior, generation to generation. I felt so compelled to put that story in the book because it really, in a very simple way, shows us that we have these inherited beliefs and that's not our fault. It's not women's fault. It's not men's fault. It's nobody's fault. This is basically our society. So think about the things that have happened in history, the things like dowries, going all the way back to not having credit cards, all of these things. But now things have started to change. Women do have opportunities now that they didn't have before. But are we modeling the right behavior for the next generation? I'm worried that we are at a cultural crossroads, meaning that we have opportunities now, and it doesn't matter our age. It could be somebody who's older, it could be somebody who's younger, but we as women have opportunities now that we didn't have in the past, that our mothers didn't have and our grandmothers didn't have. But if we keep acting the same way, we are modeling that behavior for the next generation. And we need to make that change, not just for ourselves, but for that next generation. We need to stop feeling guilty about money, whether we have it, want it, spend it, save it. We just need to stop feeling guilty about it and start to align our money with our values, taking a hard look at what we've been spending on and does it actually align with what we really want? And now I will turn it back over to Susie.
So, how is it that we make this change? We've already talked about what we're grappling with in terms of our brain, which is saying there's never enough, there's not enough, be safe, and the cultural messaging, which is basically work yourself until you're, a hollow husk and you can sleep when you're dead. And then we have this genetic history and all of these forces combine. So, what is it that we do? How do we combat this? So, let me switch over again to the old document camera. And let's talk about what I call the Buoyant Life Formula. One of the most compelling things that I learned when I was writing my book was that it's the path to where we want to be, whether it's investing, whether it's abundance, whether it's wealth, whether it's health, a specific dream, desires to travel more, desires to leave a legacy. This formula is simple, and I'm going to take you through a path. And one of the exercises that we're going to do today is an example of one of the practices that you can incorporate into your daily morning routine. And I'm not talking about having a 3-hour morning routine or getting up at 4 or 5 a.m. I mean that we can get something really powerful started in 5 minutes. So let's talk about what this combination is. The author of the book, The Alchemist, and many other books, Paulo Coelho, talks about inspiration, not as the light bulb over the head moment, but literally breathing in, inspiring yourself. And inspiration is breathing in beauty, art, nature, being with those we love, doing what brings us alive, doing what we love. When we gift ourselves this, and when I say gift, that's really what I mean. To me, this is the ultimate in self care. Not that a great spa day doesn't count, but what I'm talking about here is intentional inspiration and reconnecting with what we love doing, what perhaps we used to do that we stopped doing when life got busy. And so when our energy level is hovering around empty, This is our first step. So we fill our energetic tanks back up by connecting with these things. Once we have that full tank of energy, now we have something new, which is willingness. When we are depleted, exhausted, burned out, overwhelmed, we have very little, our willingness tank is on fumes. And what that prevents us from doing is taking bold action, making changes, setting boundaries, creating something new. We have to have that energy for that new path. So we start by filling the tank. Then we do what I call the 5 M's. And I have them listed here, but we're not going to go into each of these. Today, what we're going to focus on is what I call the last of the M's, which is making something. And before you clutch your chest and click goodbye, I can guarantee you what we're going to do today, which is going to take just a few minutes. You're going to love it. You're going to feel so calm. But the other thing that's going to happen to you is that you're going to tap into your subconscious. You're going to tap into the rich fund of intuition and insight that we routinely ignore or override, or maybe don't even hear at all. So we're going to take inspiration and combine it with one of the M's, making something. And what happens as a result? Marcia was just talking about limiting beliefs and how they have and continue in the past, and they have continued to us, to our current ways of moving in the world, hold us back, right? We have these beliefs that are focused around what's not possible, or danger, or fear. But when we make this combination happen, you unleash agency, self-trust, courage, which enables us to take bold action. And again, we are tapped back into our intuition. We all know that beautiful feeling of being in flow, almost like you're floating downstream. You are in alignment with the current of who you truly are. And all you have to do is lift your feet and lay your head back, and the current is going to take you. And that beautiful, spacious feeling is at our fingertips anytime we want it. And this is what we have to have in order to build and exercise the musculature for creating unapologetic wealth. So let me go back over to let me turn it back. But before I turn it back over to Marcia, I want to read a couple of these comments. They're wonderful. Jane says, my voice at times, especially my POV, because I'm from the Midwest, we don't offend people knowingly. Number 2, I'm really good at seeing the other side POV on any topic in any situation. So I weaken my own POV because I actually can argue against it. And Jennifer says, my grandmother and mother were very careful with money, almost OCD, and love to talk about what things cost. No conversation around risk and advantages. So, Marcia, tell me about how you see this blending between unapologetic wealth and buoyant living, because what I see is that when we feel more buoyant, when we're following this buoyant life formula, we are just naturally setting ourselves up to make clearer and more empowered financial decisions.
Yes. Well, I think when you're living a buoyant life, you talk a lot about aligning with what it is that you truly care about. I mean, I remember you asking me several times when we would talk, like, what is it that you really want to do? What is it that you like to do? And sometimes people are like, well, I like my job. And, but is that really what you want to do? Is it what you like to do? Are you truly aligning your money with your values? Are you truly aligning your life with what you truly value? So often I see people, they'll get a raise or they'll get a bonus. And the next thing you know, they're buying like a fancier car or they're moving to a bigger house or they're going on a fancy vacation. And is that really the things that they care about, that they really genuinely want, the way they genuinely want to live? And in a lot of cases, I don't think that that's true, but they kind of get trapped in this thinking of, well, I need to think about what's going to happen in the next year. And they don't necessarily think long term for the kind of buoyant life that they want to live. Like, let's think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Those are things that I think if people really started to think about, where am I going to be at that point and what is my whole life going to look like, not just my job? I think that's when people will start to get more insight.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what's really interesting to me is every single time I take a client through the ideal day exercise, and the assignment is to write down without censoring yourself what from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, what does your ideal day look like? What are you doing and who are you with? And people write a page or so of their ideal day. And then I will ask, what is it that stood out to you? What's surprising to you? And 9.9 times out of 10, what happens is that everyone has this enormous aha moment, which is, I'm actually not really after the Lambo. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have, you know, dreams of having fun toys that cost a lot
Right.
of money. But most of the time, people have, I wake up at a time of my choosing. I have coffee on the deck. I journal. I sit with my dog. I go for a walk. I go to the gym. Then I do some kind of work. And then I connect with people either during lunch or during the evening. And in between, I'm, working with clients or I'm creating something. But it's a very spacious life of agency. It's about people they love. It's about doing what they want to do, contributing in the way they want to contribute, not having their schedule controlled, and being able to um, get to that ideal day is where your teaching comes in so importantly. And oftentimes, as you mentioned, we not only don't know what we really want, but when we think about wealth, we often don't really know what the wealth would be for and how we would actually um, attract it, invest it, etc.
Mhm.
So I want to take us through a neurographic exercise. And if you all have a piece of paper or your journal and a pen, if you have colored pencils or markers or crayons, that's great, but you don't need them. I mean, if you want to bling up your picture, that's totally fine. But I'll show you how to do it with just a pencil. So get out a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen. And what I'm going to take you through is just a few minutes of making something. Remember, this is our fifth M. What this exercise does is because we are moving our hands, we are connecting new neural pathways in the brain. The other thing that happens is we cross over what I call a threshold into a portal of surrender. We're not using the strategic analyzing, oftentimes critical, perfectionistic, controlling part of us, that part of us gets to take a nap. This part is lighting up the centers of our brain that is more about exploring, connecting with your imagination, intuition, your ideation, your problem solving. So it's not about what the end result looks like. That's something else that we have to unlearn when we're making something. The key to the making something secret is that we are across the threshold in the unknown. We're in a place of uncertainty. And when we stay in that suspended state of not knowing, all kinds of things are happening within our brain and central nervous system. And what happens as a direct result is that there are parts of our knowing that come alive and come to the surface. And so we're going to do an exercise. And while we're doing it, I'm going to give you a question to ponder lightly. We're going to just turn it over to the subconscious. So let me show you back on the paper here how we're going to get started. So take your pencil or your pen and just make a rectangle. And this, again, no perfectionism allowed. So if you want to feel better about your rectangle, look at this lopsided thing, okay? So get a rectangle, and then you're going to start. I'm going to use a pen just so that you can see it better. Start anywhere you want, and I want you to make curly cues through your picture. Okay? And it's, again, there's no right or wrong reason, no right or wrong way to do this. Once you have your curly cues through your paper, I want you to find where all of the connections are. And then just kind of color them in. So if you kind of notice, this starts to actually look like connecting neurons. And it's actually happening as we're creating it. So take your pen or pencil and just kind of color in each of these little nodes. And I have some wacky looking curves. So, but I can still do it. Again, if this does not look quote unquote good, it doesn't matter. Just want you to have fun connecting stuff. Now, once you have done that, take your pencil or your pen, or if you have crayons, whatever, and I want you to fill in each of these little cells with some kind of a pattern. And I'm just going to show you this one. And I'm going to turn you loose here in just a second with your question. So you're going to fill in all of these little cells, and you can fill them in, differently, however you like. Okay? So here is your question for your subconscious mind. What do I really want when it comes to wealth? What do I really want? So you're going to turn this over to your subconscious mind, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes to fill in your little cells. and just relax and enter just a really fun zoned state. Okay. Now, and if you haven't finished, it's okay. You can finish this later. What I'd like for you to do is now flip this paper over, put your question, what do I really want when it comes to wealth? Write that up here at the top of the page. What do I really want when it comes to wealth? And now I want you to just free write for 1 minute. No censoring, just let it rip. I'll put the question in the make it a banner. And when you finish, if you would like to put your comments as to what you discovered, I'd be really curious to hear from some folks as to what came up for you. What do you really want when it comes to wealth? And did anything surprising come up for you? Jennifer says ease, freedom, no stress, open space, beauty, health, sunshine, traveling, swimming and blue skies, great friends, deep love, meals with amazing souls, and a lot of gratitude. Not very surprising. Who could love this comment more? No one. It's amazing. It's just like going back to what I talked about with the ideal day. Um, Jennifer has homed in on what brings her alive in great detail. This is the secret to knowing what it is that you really want and why it's so powerful. Nikki says to be able to give some away, to spend more time with grandson, to not feel rushed. Oh, I love that too. Beautiful. And notice too, these answers don't have anything to do with rushing around, burning ourselves out, creating this tiny little existence inside a life of frenetic overdoing. This is about peace, relaxation, being calm, again, having agency and control over your day, spending time with those you love, doing what you love. Jane says, mine is always about freedom to do what I want, when I want, the way I want, whenever I want, health and to give back, and plenty of journal writing in bistros in Paris and other places. Yes. And I will join you, my friend, in Paris in one of those journaling opportunities. Thank you so much. Keep playing around. And just to let you know, if you are needing to tap into the more creative, more spacious, more relaxed, holistic part of you, you can always do a neurographic exercise just like this and pose a question to your subconscious mind, just like we did. And it could be something around how do I best articulate my marketing message on my sales page? It could be something like, how do I have the hard conversation that I need to have with someone? How do I set a boundary? What is it that I really want to do in terms of a new direction with my business? Whatever it is. So you can use this as a morning ritual that is the perfect complement, the other half of the inspiration plus one of the 5 M's formula. And you don't have to have a lot of creativity gear. You can just get started with something very simple. So let's now turn it back over to Marcia, and she's going to talk with us about life literacy. What are the various forms of wealth that incorporate life literacy?
Yes. So when we talk about unapologetic wealth, we're talking about something deeper than financial literacy. We're really talking about life literacy. And we've been talking about it really for the last 43 minutes here. Life literacy is the ability to understand what is happening beneath the surface of your choices, especially your money choices. And it begins with understanding your emotional landscape. Every one of us carries a money story, or maybe many money stories. And we've absorbed it through family dynamics, cultural expectations, relationships, and the rooms we were or were not invited into. And if you don't recognize the emotional roots of the beliefs about money, they quietly shape your decisions. So, life literacy means becoming aware of your triggers, your fears, your patterns, and your strengths so that you can choose consciously rather than react automatically. So, I did have a lot of people tell me their money story when I was writing Unapologetic Wealth, and I was just fascinated at all of the different stories and how much women really want to talk about money, but they've never really been invited to do that. And so when we think about the different types of wealth, I think about it, and actually Jennifer just said it in the chat quite nicely. We're thinking about all of the different types of wealth: time wealth, health wealth, relationship wealth, creativity wealth, knowledge wealth. So, life literacy allows you to design a life that reflects your values rather than inherited conditioning. And that is really the heart of unapologetic wealth. Many women are capable, they're accomplished, and yet still operating from scripts written generations ago. Be careful. Don't talk about money. Let someone else handle it. Don't take up too much space. We need to examine these scripts. You get to decide which beliefs support the life you want to build and which ones are ready to be rewritten. Wealth then expands beyond dollars and includes time, health, relationships, contribution, the impact that you can make. I mean, one of the reasons that I became an angel investor is because I really love being able to be, even if it's a very small part, but it's a part of the type of change that I want to see in the world, whether that's in healthcare or our climate, our planet, and people, all of those types of things. So when we build life literacy, you step into authorship, you engage with your money, you align with your values, and you create a life that reflects who you truly are. And that is where unapologetic wealth begins. So I will turn it back over to Susie, who will go over how we can do that.
This is so juicy. Let me go into the how right now. So, how in the world do we do this? How do we develop life literacy? And we have three nice, simple pillars that you can think about and begin to make small changes. The first is awareness. It's important to notice your money patterns, and it's so important to do it without judgment. We can be so mean to ourselves. It's bananas. So just kind of take yourself up into the balcony and be an observer of yourself and your behavior and what your patterns are. And you're not going to be up there throwing rotten fruit down at the stage of yourself, right? You're just going to notice it. You can also track your emotional responses to earning, spending, and investing. And this awareness is helpful because when we stuff this way down, we tend to keep hiding out. We tend to keep playing small. We tend to keep thinking, oh, this can't possibly be true for me. But if we allow ourselves to be observers of ourselves in a non judgmental, very neutral capacity, we can start to go, oh, okay, wait a second. That's a limiting belief. That's not true. That's where we begin to get a little crack of light into the cave. The next, permission, allowing yourself to want more and feel good. It's so common for people to accept or believe that I'm not allowed to want more, or it's not cool to want more, or it's selfish to want more and to feel good. And also to release what Marcia so beautifully outlined for us around these inherited narratives about struggle or sacrifice, that the only path to success is through being miserable and exhausted and working at a frenetic pace, having lots of discipline, whipping yourself forward. All of those things are untrue. It doesn't mean that there's not hard work involved. Yes, of course. But we're talking about hard work that's in alignment with who we truly are, that puts us in this state of flow. And the third pillar is practice. We have to make small, aligned financial choices consistently. If we're just coming off of the couch, so to speak, we don't have to scale financial Everest by Friday, right? You can start out very small, make little choices, and build your courage musculature and also your clarity around what it is that you really enjoy doing. And finally, build self-trust through action and not perfection. And I will come back. Okay. Before we switch gears, I want to just check in and see if anyone has any questions at this point. And you can put them in the comments. And here's Susan G's comment from her neurographics exercise. She said, have enough money to live my life and never worry about money. Travel, help others, buy homes, and cook for others. Love it. Love it. I don't see any questions. So let me take a pause here. I'm going to put a couple of links into the comments. And what I want you to, whoops, it looks a little messy. Let's see how that, do you see that popping up, Marcia?
I do. Yeah. I think people
Can
get
see it?
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Marcia, if you'll hold up your book for me, please. What I
Mhm.
would like to do is take a moment and heartily encourage everyone to pre-order this book. I got to be a very fun part, a little part of this process.
Well, you were a big part
And
of the process.
and what I can tell you is that this book was born from a previous book and all the things that she learned as a result of that. And it kind of just opened up this awareness that there's the book number one, that opened up this awareness that there was a need to have the before story because hold up the other book again. Do good while doing well is all of what you want to have at your fingertips. It's more geared toward that investor who's looking to build not only a portfolio but build an impact, a legacy. And there were a lot of people who needed to have the before steps before they got to that next level. And what became very clear to her in this process was the prevalence of all the things that we've been talking about. Her audience was telling her what they wanted in this next book. So
Right.
it is filled with practical information. It's going to give you a roadmap that takes all of the mystery out of the process. It is so important for us to be able to understand, again, from that observer sort of person in the balcony perspective, what is happening and how it shapes our perception and our behavior, and also how we feel, how we move in the world. This is your get out of jail free card in the form of a book. And she writes so beautifully. You're just going to go on this lovely voyage of self discovery. And she's going to take you through these exercises that are very simple, but very powerful. So I'd love it if you would pop over to Amazon. Going to Amazon, even though it may not be your favorite, it's important for authors. And here's why. Amazon also acts not only as a bookseller, but it's also really tied to SEO. And so, for an author to begin to get traction at this very critical pre release phase, which is where Marcia is right now with her book, one more month and it will be out. So, this next 4 weeks is critical. We want to see her on the USA Today bestseller list, and it's happening. I'm calling it right here. And so, what you can do is to pop over to Amazon, pre-order her book. And what that will do is generate all kinds of algorithm juju, both within um, the Amazon site, but also elsewhere. So it helps her get her message out to more people. And I know you know people who need this book. So let's be a great community of supporters and help get the word out for her book so that she can reach more people and affect greater change in the world.
Thank you, Susie.
I will now get off my soapbox. So, let's take a minute. Marcia, do you have anything else you want to share before we start to wrap up here?
Well, I think what you said about, why I wrote the book, I'm more of a spreadsheet person than a writer. And I didn't really even think I would write one book. And here we are with the release of book two. But I do think books have a powerful way of connecting with people. And when I saw that the first book, which is really about demystifying early stage investing, it was a little bit of a brain dump of everything I had done, and thought to myself, wow, I made a bunch of mistakes. I should probably tell people, like, don't do some of these things, because that's probably not a good idea. And then when I started to realize that, wow, there's even more to it. We need a prequel book, because I would talk to women and they would say, well, I really thought that I wanted to do this. But then when I started to think about, well, where am I going to take the money from? I didn't even know much about my own financial situation. Either my husband does it, or my financial planner does it, or whatever the story is. And so I thought, wow, we really need to start talking more about money and having these money conversations, and realizing where our money story is making our decisions for us and we don't even realize it. But when we can realize it, we can actually make change.
Beautiful, beautiful. I am putting into the little ticker here. I just had Marcia's URL on the little ticker. I'm gonna speak it out loud. Marcia, Marcia, Dawood, DAWOOD.com, all together. You can connect with her through her site. You can connect with her on all of her social media channels. She has all kinds of um, content that is just rich, no pun intended, beyond words. Her podcast, what is the URL for your podcast?
It's The Angel Next Door, and you can find it anywhere that you find podcasts, but it's also on my YouTube channel, The Angel Next Door Podcast.
Perfect.
And thank you, Susan, for buying a book this morning.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, do we have any other comments or questions before we wrap up today? Thank you so much for being here.
Yes,
All
thank
of
you,
you
everyone.
wonderful folks. I am so delighted that we had this time together. It has been an honor to sit with my great friend and share her brilliance and creativity with all of you all. Please get to know her work, and yes, please support her book. We really would appreciate it. Thank you so much, you guys. Take good care.
Thanks, Susie, and thanks, everyone.
Bye, y'all.